So if you turn to page 2, I have a little puzzle for you. I don't know if you can figure that out. Will might help us out. Maybe not. I don't know where we're at. But do you know what that is, that poem?
I do.
Yeah? It's the Beatles. Anybody want to sing it for us? That's it. We all need some help, right? This psalm is about help. Last week we looked at Psalm 120, and Psalm 120 starts these psalms of ascent. You know, they're psalms that as people came to the temple in ancient days, they would start at the bottom and they would recite a psalm, Psalm 120. And they'd take a step up, and then they'd recite Psalm 121. And they'd take a step up and recite Psalm 22. And onward, 15 steps up to the holy place where they would worship God. And the Psalms are written in a way that they kind of reflect life, but not so. A little self-disclosure. You ready? You might not want to hear this, so just plug your ears. It's really tempting and really easy to be a pastor who stands up here week after week and tells you that God's going to do everything you want. God will meet all of your needs. And if God's not meeting your needs, then maybe you need to pray a little bit harder. But it'll come. Just work at it. And then send you home with a smile on your face, like you just won the lottery or something, because God's on your side. But that's not real life. We get in situations where it just doesn't get fixed. People get sick. People don't like you. They don't like you because you're too nice, or you don't look right, or you don't talk right. And there's nothing you can do about it. Am I striking a chord with you? There's a rawness to life that these Psalms speak to. A rawness that is unavoidable and is part of life. You can blame it on the fall. You can blame it on Satan. You can blame it on God. But the psalmists know, and you should know, that regardless of all of that, God is still God. There was a time in my life where I couldn't overcome something that I started off thinking it was a great thing for me to do. Years later, I started justifying it in the sense that it's not going to hurt anybody but myself, and it was okay to do, because if I hurt myself, who cares? I'm not hurting anybody else. And years later after that, I realized that I needed this to stop. Because not only was it going to destroy me, it was going to destroy the people around me. And I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that it would stop. And it was like days turned into years. It was a battle. I got mad that my prayers weren't answered. I got mad that God didn't just do it. I got mad at God. But the reality for me was that no matter how mad I was at God, no matter how much I wanted to turn my back on God, no matter how much I wanted to reject God, no matter how much I wanted to pretend that God wasn't there, no matter how much atheistic theory I went into and tried my best to just get to the place where I didn't need God, the fact remained that no matter how bad life was for me at that moment, no matter how I felt about what was going on, God is still God. And in that area in my life, praise God, has been resolved and rectified. And God offered me grace in amazing ways. You know, I kind of akin it to pregnancy, although I've never been pregnant. But it takes 9 months. And if my wife was here, she'd be able to tell you better than I what that 9 months was like. Maybe you've had children, and some of it is painful, and some of it is crampy and tough, and then all of a sudden, amazement. And that was kind of my struggle with God. It was tough and it took time. And all of a sudden, God just removed it from my life. If you're in the midst of that struggle and that pregnancy, if you will, in the middle of that 9 months, and you're looking for the end, you're looking for God, the hand of God to come and move and change things, this psalm speaks to that. It speaks to a God who can help us in times of need. But it also speaks to the fact that we all have times of need and we all struggle with things in a really raw way. There are 3 things that I'd like to focus on with you this morning in regards to struggle. One is intrapersonal struggle, like you struggle with yourself. I don't know about you, but there are things and things that I just can't get out of my head, or I can't fix within myself. There are interpersonal struggles. I have struggles with people in my life. And some people in my life are wonderful, and they put up with me. And then there are people in my life who are probably wonderful in someone's eyes, but not mine. And I really struggle with them. Right? Everybody has a mom that loves them somewhere. Maybe. And then there's corporate issues. And you can break that down however you want. Your family, your neighborhood, your place of work, your town, your state, your nation. But we have struggles. The church, our church. You know, in Revelation. Revelation is the last book in the Bible. John, the apostle, wrote it. Stay with me. I'm going to talk fast because this is bonus material for you this morning. So Revelation was written by John. John was an apostle of Jesus. He walked with Jesus. He was the guy that in the Gospel of John, he said that Jesus loved him like he was the beloved disciple. And all the other disciples, talk about struggles. All the other disciples, for their faith, were martyred. Except John, he was exiled. So he lived a long life. He saw the development of the church in the early times, and he had an opportunity to write about it, and God sent him a message. And in this vision that he had, he wrote 7 letters. God wrote 7 letters to 7 churches, and all of the churches had sin problems. They had issues within the church that were hampering their development. It was the early church. It was our ancestors, if you will, spiritual ancestors. And the church was booming. But those churches had issues. They lost their first love. They got lukewarm. You can read them. They're short letters. Isn't that great? God was very concise. As a church, where are we in our struggles? Where are we? How are we viewed outside the walls of this building by the community? Do you ever tell someone that you go to this church? They don't know where the church is. Then you tell them it's the round one. Oh, yeah, I know where the round one is. Right? We're like the round church. I don't know how to spin that. Yes, we're the round church. But who are we as a church? It's a deeper question for later on. But the point is that we wrestle within ourselves with some things that we have trouble getting rid of or getting beyond. We have interpersonal relationships with each other, and then we have corporate relational issues that this psalm speaks to. And it's bad stuff. It's not a joke. Have you ever been in a bad relationship? I know. This is way too much information for you. My wife's going to kill me. But there have been times my wife is amazing. She really is. She is so kind and so loving. She's absolutely my better half. She puts up with my garbage. She does. She'll never tell you that because she loves me too much. But she absolutely does. There have been times where I get so frustrating, I try and frustrate her. I know you've never done that to your spouse, but you get in a pattern, right, with people that you live with, because you expect them to act a certain way, or you expect a certain behavior out of them. And then you reinforce it by saying, "Oh yeah, I knew you were going to do that." And it's just not healthy. But we get in patterns where we tell. Did you ever go to counseling? You know a counselor? It's good for everybody, because we get in patterns in our own minds, and we say things about ourselves all the time. And there's always this balance, right? Because you know somebody, right? Don't point your finger, but who end up thinking too highly of themselves, right? Or maybe they think too low of themselves. And you get in these reinforced patterns where all of a sudden you start believing about yourself, and you're not thinking about yourself the way God is thinking about you. You're thinking about yourself the way you're thinking about you. See, God's calling somebody right now. Let him know. This psalm speaks to all this stuff. What in the Bible? I don't know. Do you know the story of David and Goliath? I'm sure you do. If you know, you either know it from the Bible or you know it from just like culture, right? A lot of times, what we skip over in that story is that David was really insignificant at that point. He had been called to be the king, but it had been years And he was just a kid. And Israel had a king. He was Saul. He was like an Andre the Giant. I'm dating myself. That's a big, huge wrestler from WWF back then, and now it's WWE, right? But he was like the biggest. He was like some 8-foot tall, 500-pound monster of a wrestler, and he would just stand in the middle of the ring. And these big guys, like not like I'm a tiny guy. These guys were big guys. They're like 6'5", 200-300 pounds, just jumping on him, and he's just standing there like unmovable. And then he just throws them off like bugs, like he was huge. Well, Goliath, when I think of Goliath, I think of like Andre the Giant plus size. And Goliath was huge, but Saul, the king of Israel, was big too. Maybe like John Cena. Big. Not Andre the Giant big, but John Cena big, right? So, sorry if you don't know wrestling. But The Rock, how's that? The Rock's big, right? But here, David's like a little shepherd boy. He's like this little kid in the field, and he's insignificant at this point. His brothers are all in the battle. Saul's in the battle. Everybody's in the battle. And this Andre the Giant-looking Goliath guy comes down the mountain every day into the valley, and he's like, all right, we're going to end this. Just send your biggest warrior out, and I'll take him on, and then whoever wins takes all. And all of Israel cowered, like there was nobody that was willing to go down and take on this guy, this trained warrior. They were trained warriors, but they weren't like 9-foot tall trained warriors. And David comes along. Think about how you feel in regards to God's grand scheme of things. Here comes insignificant little David with sandwiches for his brothers, just to check on him because Daddy told him to go. Did you ever feel insignificant in God's great plan? So David comes in and he hears this and he's like, all right, I got God on my side. I'm going to step up. And he steps up. Did you ever step up for God? Everybody around him was trying to put him back in his little insignificant place. You're just a kid. You're just my brother, little brother. You're just a shepherd. You're not a warrior. You're just nothing. And he says, no. I got it. And they're like, okay, well, the world tells us this stuff, right? Okay, so if you're going to do this, you need X, Y, and Z, right? You need this battle armor. You need this and that, because you can't do it on your own. You need our help somehow with stuff that we've made because you're too insignificant. And David puts the stuff on. He appeases them, and then he's like, no, I'm done. I got it. So he does what he knows. He does how he's been trained. He puts his faith in God. He picks up some rocks. You know the rest of the story, right? He goes down. My favorite is he picks up 5 rocks. He's trusting God. He only needs 1 rock. But he picks up 5, because we get in those situations, right? And it's a little bit unsettling. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna open the Bible, and I'm gonna ask God to speak to me through the pages, but I don't know how that's gonna work. I'm gonna pray for this, but I don't know how that's gonna work. I'm gonna pray with this person. I don't even know if they know I'm a Christian. I don't know if I've ever prayed with anybody before. I don't know. I can't pray out loud. I'm gonna give more than I think I can give. I don't know if I can do this. David goes out and he slays Goliath. And he didn't do it on his own. He gave God all the glory. This psalm is about those moments in life where we realize or importance in God's plan and know that God can conquer anything. So yeah, we have, do we have any Marvel fans? I am not a Marvel fan, I'm a DC fan. All right, so there's a new movie out, Captain Marvel, right? Had to see it opening night because I live with Marvel fans. Ugh. But I wanted to go see Aquaman again, which for those who don't know, that's DC. Aquaman is DC. Anyway, I grew up with like Super Friends, Justice League. And so Captain Marvel, there's this great scene in the movie where she is beaten down. And she remembers who she is. And claims the power that she's been given. Our culture is filled with stories like that, right? Where a person overcomes this thing or that thing. So when we hear David and Goliath, sometimes we think, okay, that can happen. And when you hear, oh, well, he gave all the credit to God, okay, I could do that. But do you know how powerful this psalm is? At the second part of the psalm, the first part is them crying out because they were going to be torn by the, ripped by the teeth, like this vivid imagery. But then it gets into this bird imagery where there's a bird that's captured in a snare by the hunter. And the snare is broken. It doesn't say by who right away, but the snare is broken. Do you know what's going to happen to the bird? The hunter is not catching the bird for a pet. It is a meat bird. The bird is going to die. And God rescues the bird. The power of this psalm is that even though you can comprehend maybe a David and Goliath in real life, in real time, maybe you know of people that have overcome incredible odds to do something powerful in this world. What is the one thing that we cannot escape? We all die. And this psalm speaks right to the heart of Jesus Christ coming into the world 1,500 years before he even came on the scene. It speaks to a God who can overcome even death. That trap that you can't get out of. The power of God is not only a David and Goliath story. The power of God, as God is our helper in our lives, is a resurrection story. It's about a God who can even beat the only thing that you can't possibly beat. And if you just look to him, if you cry out to him, if you seek him, he will empower you not just to slay Goliath, but to slay Satan and death itself. That's a powerful, powerful message for you and for me. Every moment of every day when we deal with our own interpersonal stuff that we have trouble getting over, getting through, when we deal with people in our interpersonal relationships that just, it's been so long, we've been at this grind and this fight and this battle for so long, I just can't even see getting beyond it. It's a corporate thing. Where we as a church can't get it right. Or as a community, we can't get it right. As a country, we can't get it right. There's just too many people and too many pieces, and it just gets mind-boggling and mind-blowing. And the psalmist says, even in the midst of death, if we look to God, if we rest in God, if we give God the glory and we claim what He has called us to be. Praise be to God that we can even conquer death above and beyond a Goliath. Amen.